Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soft Stories. I'm Stratton, and this is Pepper, and today we are going to be continuing our reading of Le Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory. When last we left Arthur, he had become King of Britain after pulling the sword from the stone. A sword which I had believed to be one other than Excalibur, but Excalibur was mentioned during the last passage, and so it must have been Excalibur after all. We'll have to see the sword that he pulls from the lake, given to him by the lady thereof, and whether that too is a named sword. At any rate, we got through the first 9 chapters of the first book of this tome, and it is there that we pick up with chapter 10, how Merlin counselled King Arthur to send for King Ban and King Bors, and of their counsel taken for the war. So after the feast and journey, King Arthur drew him unto London, and so by the counsel of Merlin the king let call his barons to council. For Merlin had told the king that the 6 kings that made war upon him would in all haste be awroke on him and on his lands. Wherefore the king asked counsel at them all. They could no counsel give, but said they were big enough. Ye say well, said Arthur, I thank you for your good courage, but will ye all that loveth me speak with Merlin? Ye know well that he hath done much for me, and he knoweth many things, and when he is afore you, I would that ye prayed him heartily of his best advice. All the barons said they would pray him and desire him. So Merlin was sent for, and fair desired of all the barons to give them best counsel. I shall say you, said Merlin, I warn you all, your enemies are passing strong for you, and they are good men of arms as be alive. And by this time they have gotten to them 4 kings more and a mighty duke. And unless that our king have more chivalry with him than he may make within the bounds of his own realm, and he fight with them in battle, he shall be overcome and slain. What were best to do in this cause? Said all the barons. I shall tell you, said Merlin, my advice. There are 2 brethren beyond the sea, and they be kings both, and marvellous good men of their hands. And that one hight King Ban of Benwick, and that other hight King Bors of Gaul, that is France. And on these 2 kings warreth a mighty man of men, the King Claudas, and striveth with them for a castle, and a great war is betwixt them. But this Claudas is so mighty of goods whereof he getteth good knights, that he putteth these 2 kings most part to the worse. Wherefore this is my counsel, that our king and sovereign lord send unto the kings Ban and Bors by 2 trusty knights, with letters well devised, that if they will come and see King Arthur and his court, and so help him in his wars, that he will be sworn unto them to help them in their wars against King Claudas. Now, what say ye unto this counsel? Said Merlin. This is well counselled, said the king and all the barons. Right so, in all haste there were ordained to go 2 knights on the message unto the 2 kings. So were there made letters in the pleasant wise according to King Arthur's desire. Ulfius and Brastias were made the messengers, and so rode forth well horsed and well armed, and as the guise was that time, and so passed the sea and rode toward the city of Benwick. And there besides were 8 knights that espied them, and at a straight passage they met with Ulfius and Brastias, and would have taken them prisoners. So they prayed them that they might pass, for they were messengers unto King Ban and Bors sent from King Arthur. Therefore, said the 8 knights, ye shall die or be prisoners, for we be knights of King Claudas. And therewith 2 of them dressed their spears, and Ulfius and Brastias dressed their spears, and ran together with great raundon. And Claudas's knights brake their spears, and theirs 2 held and bare the 2 knights out of their saddles to the earth, so left them lying, and rode their ways. And the other 6 knights rode afore to a passage to meet with them again. And so Ulfius and Brastias smote other 2 down, and so passed on their ways. And at the 4th passage there met 2 for 2, and both were laid into the earth. So there was none of the 8 knights but he was sore hurt or bruised. And when they come to Benwick, it fortuned there were both kings Ban and Bors. And when it was told the knights that there were come messengers, there were sent unto them 2 knights of worship, the one hight Lionses, lord of the country of Payan, and Sir Phariance, a worshipful knight. Anon they asked from whence they came, and they said, from King Arthur, King of England. So they took them in their arms, and made great joy each of other. But anon, as the 2 knights wist they were messengers of Arthur's, there was made no tarrying, but forthwith they spake with the knights, and welcomed them in the faithfullest wise, and said they were most welcome unto them before all the kings living. And therewith they kissed the letters and delivered them. And when Ban and Bors understood the letters, then they were more welcome than they were before. And after the haste of the letters they gave them this answer, that they would fulfill the desire of King Arthur's writing. And Ulfius and Brastias tarry there as long as they would, they should have such cheer as might be made them in those marches. Then Ulfius and Brastias told the king of the adventure at their passages of the 8 knights. Ha! Ah! Said Ban and Bors, they were my good friends. I would I had wist of them, they should not have escaped so. So Ulfius and Brastias had good cheer and great gifts as much as they might bear away, and had their answer by mouth and by writing, that those 2 kings would come unto Arthur in all the haste that they might. So the 2 knights rode on afore, and passed the sea, and came to their lord, and told him how they had sped, whereof Arthur was passing glad. Then the king let purvey for a great feast, and let cry a great jousts. And by all Hallowmas the two kings were come over the sea with 300 knights well arrayed, both for the peace and for the war. And King Arthur met them 10 mile out of London, and there was great joy as could be thought or made. And on All-Hallowmass, at the great feast, sat in the hall the 3 kings, and Sir Kay Seneschal served in the hall, and Sir Lucas the butler, that was Duke Cornelius's sons, and Sir Griflet, that was the son of Cardol. These 3 knights had the rule of all the service that served the kings. And anon, as they had washen and risen, all knights that would joust made them ready. By when they were ready on horseback, there were 700 knights, and Arthur, Ban, and Bors, with the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Sir Ector, Kay's father, they were in a place covered with cloth of gold, like an hall, with ladies and gentlewomen, for to behold who did best, and thereon to give judgment. Chapter 11. Of a great tourney made by King Arthur and the 2 kings Ban and Bors, and how they went over the sea. And King Arthur and the 2 kings let depart the 700 knights in 2 parties, and there were 300 knights of the realm of Benwick and of Gaul turned on the other side. Then they dressed their shields, and began to couch their spears many good knights. So Griflet was the first that met with a knight, one Ladinus, and they met so eagerly that all men had wonder. And they so fought that their shields fell to pieces, and horse and man fell to the earth, and both the French knight and the English knight lay so long that all men weened that they had been dead. When Lucas the butler saw Griflet so lie, he horsed him again anon, and they 2 did marvellous deeds of arms with many bachelors. Also Sir Kay came out of an embushment with 5 knights with him, and they 6 smote other 6 down. But Sir Kay that day did marvellous deeds of arms, that there was none did so well as he that day. Then there come Ladinus and Gratian, 2 knights of France, and did passing well, that all men praised them. Then come there Sir Placidus, a good knight, and met with Sir Kay, and smote him down horse and man, wherefore Sir Griflet was wroth, and met with Sir Placidus so hard that horse and man fell to the earth. But when the 5 knights wist that Sir Kay had a fall, they were wroth out of wit, and therewith each of them 5 bare down a knight. When King Arthur and the 2 kings saw them begin to wax wroth on both parties, they leapt on small hackneys, and let cry that all men should depart unto their lodging. And so they went home, and unarmed them, and so to evensong and supper. And after the 3 kings went into a garden, and gave the prize unto Sir Kay, and to Lucas the butler, and unto Sir Griflet. And then they went into council, and with them Gwenbaus, the brother unto Sir Ban and Bors, a wise clerk. And thither went Ulfius and Brastias and Merlin. And after they had been in council, they went unto bed. And on the morn they heard mass, and to dinner, and so to their council, and made many arguments what were best to do. At the last they were concluded that Merlin should go with a token of King Ban, and that was a ring, unto his men and King Bors, and Gratian and Placidus should go again and keep their castles and their countries, as King Ban of Benwick and King Bors of Gaul had ordained them. And so they passed the sea and came to Benwick. And when the people saw King Ban's ring and Gratian and Placidus, they were glad, and asked how the kings fared, and made great joy of their welfare and courting. And according to the sovereign lord's desire, the men of war made them ready in all haste possible, so that they were 15,000 on horse and foot, and they had great plenty of victual with them by Merlin's provision. But Gratian and Placidus were left to furnish and garnish the castles, for dread of King Claudas. Right so Merlin passed the sea well victualled, both by water and by land. And when he came to the sea, he sent home the footman again, and took no more with him but 10,000 men on horseback, the most part men of arms, and so shipped and passed the sea into England, and landed at Dover, and through the wit of Merlin he led the host northward, the privviest way that could be thought, unto the forest of Bederain. And there in the valley he lodged them secretly. Then rode Merlin unto Arthur and the two kings, and told them how he had sped, whereof they had a great marvel, that man on earth might speed so soon, and go and come. So Merlin told them 10,000 were in the forest of Bederain, well armed at all points. Then there was no more to say, but to horseback went all the host, as Arthur had afore purveyed. So with 20,000 he passed by night and day, and there was made such an ordinance afore by Merlin, that there should no man of war ride, nor go in no country on this side Trent water, but if he had a token from King Arthur, where through the king's enemies durst not ride, as they did tofore to espy. Chapter 12. How 11 kings gathered a great host against King Arthur. And so, within a little space, the 3 kings came unto the castle of Bederain, and found there a passing fair fellowship, and well beseen, whereof they had great joy, and victual they wanted none. This was the cause of the northern host, that they were reared for the despot and rebuke the 6 kings had at Carlion. And those 6 kings by their means gat unto them 5 other kings, and thus they began to gather their people, and how they sware that for weal nor woe they should not leave other till they had destroyed Arthur. And then they made an oath. The first that began the oath was the Duke of Cambenet, that he would bring with him 5,000 men of arms which were ready on horseback. Then sware King Brandagoris of Strangor that he would bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Then sware King Clariance of Northumberland that he would bring 3,000 men at arms. Then sware the King of the 100 Knights, that was a passing good man, and a young, that he would bring 4,000 men of arms on horseback. Then swore there King Lot, a passing good knight, and Sir Gawaine's father, that he would bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. And there swore King Uriens, that was Sir Uwaine's father, of the land of Gore, that he would bring 6,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Idris of Cornwall, that he would bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Cradlemas to bring 5,000 men on horseback. Also there swore King Agwisance of Ireland to bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. Also there swore King Nentres to bring 5,000 men of arms on horseback. So their whole host was of clean men of arms on horseback 50,000, and afoot 10,000 of good men's bodies. Then they were soon ready, and mounted upon horse, and sent forth their 4 riders, for these 11 kings in their ways laid a siege unto the castle at Bederain. And so they departed, and drew toward Arthur, and left few to abide at the siege, for the castle of Bederain was holden of King Arthur, and the men that were therein were Arthur's. Chapter 13. Of a dream of the king with the 100 knights. So, by Merlin's advice, there were sent 4 riders to skim the country, and they met with the 4 riders of the north, and made them to tell which way the host came. And then they told it to Arthur, and by King Ban and Bors' counsel they let burn and destroy all the country afore them where they should ride. The king with the 100 knights met a wonder dream 2 nights afore the battle, that there blew a great wind, and blew down their castles and their towns, and after that came a water, and bare it all away. All that heard of the Swayoon said it was a token of great battle. Then by counsel of Merlin, when they wist which way the 11 kings would ride and lodge that night, at midnight they set upon them, as they were in their pavilions. But the scout watch by their host cried, Lords, at arms, for here be your enemies at your hand. Chapter 14. How the 11 kings with their host fought against Arthur and his host, and many great feats of the war. Then King Arthur and King Ban and King Bors, with their good and trusty knights, set on them so fiercely that they made them overthrow their pavilions on their heads. But the 11 kings, by manly prowess of arms, took a fair campaign. But there was slain that morrowtide 10,000 good men's bodies. For so they had afore them a strong passage, yet were they 50,000 of hardy men. Then it drew toward day. Now shall ye do by mine advice, said Merlin unto the 3 kings. I would that King Ban and King Bors with their fellowship of 10,000 men were put in a wood here beside, in an embushment, and keep them privy, that they be laid or the light of the day come, and that they stir not till ye and your knights have fought with them long. And when it is daybreak, dress your battle, even afore them and the passage, that they may see all your host, for then they will be the more hardy, when they see you, but about 20,000 men, and cause them to be the gladder to suffer you and your host to come over the passage. All the 3 kings and the whole barons said that Merlin said passingly well, and it was done anon as Merlin had devised. So on the morn, when either host saw other, the host of the north was well comforted. Then to Sir Ulfius and Brastias were delivered 3,000 men of arms, and they set on them fiercely in the passage, and slew on the right hand and on the left, that it was wonder to tell. When the 11 kings saw that there was so few a fellowship did such deeds of arms, they were ashamed, and set on them again fiercely. And there was Sir Ulfius's horse slain under him, but he did marvellously well on foot. But the Duke Eustace of Cambernet and King Clariance of Northumberland were always grievous on Ulfius. When Brastias saw his fellow fared so withal, he smote the Duke with a spear, that horse and man fell down. That saw King Clariance, and returned unto Brastias, and either smote other, so that the horse and man went to the earth, and so they lay long astonied, and their horse knees brast to the hard bone. Then came Sir Kay the seneschal, with 6 fellows with him, and did passing well. With that came the 11 kings, and there was Griflet put to the earth, horse and man, and Lucas the butler, horse and man, by King Brandagoris, and King Idris, and King Aguisance. Then waxed the medley passing hard on both parties. When Sir Kay saw Sir Griflet on foot, he rode on King Nentres, and smote him down, and led his horse unto Sir Griflet, and horsed him again. Also Sir Kay with the same spear smote down King Lot, and hurt him passing sore. That saw the king with the 100 knights, and ran unto Sir Kay, and smote him down, and took his horse, and gave him King Lot, whereof he said gramercy. When Sir Griflet saw Sir Kay and Lucas the butler on foot, he took a sharp spear, great and square, and rode to Pinnel, a good man of arms, and smote horse and man down. And then he took his horse, and gave him unto Sir Kay. When King Lot saw King Nentres on foot, he ran unto Melot de la Roche, and smote him down, horse and man, and gave King Nentres the horse, and horsed him again. Also the king of the 100 knights saw King Nentres on foot, and he ran unto Guimiard de Blois, and smote him down, horse and man, and gave King Idris the horse, and horsed him again. And King Lot smote down Clarius de la Forest savage, and gave the horse unto Duke Eustace. And so when they had horsed the kings again, they drew them all 11 kings together, and said they would be revenged of the damage they had taken that day. The meanwhile came in Sir Ector with an eager countenance, and found Ulfius and Brastias on foot in great peril of death, that were foul defoiled under horses' feet. Then King Arthur, as a lion, ran unto King Cradlement of North Wales, and smote him through the left side, and the horse and the king fell down. And then he took the horse by the rein, and led him to Ulfius, and said, Have this horse, mine old friend, for great need hast thou of horse. Gramercy, said Ulfius. Then Sir Arthur did so marvellously in arms that all men had wonder. When the king with the 100 knights saw King Cradlement on foot, he ran unto Sir Ector, that was well horsed, Sir Kay's father, and smote horse and man down, and gave the horse unto the king, and horsed him again. And when King Arthur saw the kings ride on Sir Ector's horse, he was wroth, and with his sword he smote the king on the helm, that a quarter of the helm and shield fell down, and the sword carved down unto the horse's neck. And so the king and the horse fell down to the ground. Then Sir Kay came unto Sir Morganore, seneschal with the king of the 100 knights, and smote him down, horse and man, and led the horse unto his father, Sir Ector. Then Sir Ector ran unto a knight hight Lardens, and smote horse and man down, and led the horse unto Sir Brastias, that great need had of an horse, and was greatly defoiled. When Brastias beheld Lucas the butler that lay like a dead man under the horse's feet, and ever Sir Griflet did marvellously for to rescue him, and there were always 14 knights on Sir Lucas, then Brastias smote one of them on the helm, that it went to the teeth, and he rode to another and smote him, that the arm flew into the field. And then he went to the third and smote him on the shoulder, that shoulder and arm flew in the field. And when Griflet saw rescues, he smote a knight on the temples, that head and helm went to the earth. And Griflet took the horse of that knight, and led him unto Sir Lucas, and bade him mount upon the horse, and revenge his hurts. For Brastias had slain a knight tofore, and horsed Griflet. Chapter 15. Yet of the same battle. Then Lucas saw King Aguisance, that late had slain Maurice de la Roche, and Lucas ran to him with a short spear that was great, that he gave him such a fall that the horse fell down to the earth. Also Lucas found there on foot Bloius de la Flandre and Sir Guinas, 2 hardy knights, and in that woodness that Lucas was in he slew 2 bachelors and horsed them again. Then waxed the battle, passing hard on both parties, but Arthur was glad that his knights were horsed again, and then they fought together, that the noise and sound rang by the water and the wood. Wherefore King Ban and King Bors made them ready, and dressed their shields and harness, and they were so courageous that many knights shook and beavered for eagerness. All this while Lucas and Guinas and Bryant and Belias of Flanders held strong medley against 6 kings, that was King Lot, King Nentres, King Brandegoris, King Idris, King Uriens, and King Aguisance. So with the help of Sir Kay and Sir Griflet they held these 6 kings hard, that uneath they had any power to defend them. But when Sir Arthur saw the battle would not be ended by no manner, he furred wood as a lion, and steered his horse here and there on the right hand and on the left, that he stinted not till he had slain 20 knights. Also he wounded King Lot sore on the shoulder, and made him to leave that ground. For Sir Kay and Griflet did with King Arthur there great deeds of arms. Then Ulfius and Brastias and Sir Ector encountered again Duke Eustace and King Cradlemont and King Clariance of Northumberland and King Carados, and against the king with the 100 knights. So these kings encountered with these kings, and they made them unto avoid the ground. Then King Lot made great dole for his damages and his fellows, and said unto the 10 kings, But if ye will do as I devise, we shall be slain and destroyed. Let me have the king with the 100 knights, and King Aguisance, and King Idris, and the Duke of Cambernet. And we 5 kings will have 15,000 men of arms with us, and we will go apart, while ye 6 kings hold medley with 12,000, and we see that ye have foughten with them long. Then we will come on fiercely, and else shall we never match them, said King Lot, but by this mean. So they departed as they here devised, and 6 kings made their party strong against Arthur, and made great war long. In the meanwhile brake the ambushment of King Ban and King Bors, and Lianses and Phariants had the vanguard, and they 2 kings met with King Idris and his fellowship, And there began a great medley of breaking of spears and smiting of swords, with slaying of men and horses, and King Idris was near at discomfiture. That saw acquiescence the king, and put liances and variants in point of death, for the Duke of Cambernet came on withal with a great fellowship. So these two knights were in great danger of their lives, that they were fain to return, but always they rescued themselves and their fellowship marvellously. When King Bors saw those knights put aback, it grieved him sore. Then he came on so fast that his fellowship seemed as black as Indy. When King Lot had espied King Bors, he knew him well. Then he said, O Jesu, defend us from death and horrible maims, for I see well we be in great peril of death, for I see yonder a king, one of the most worshipfullest men, and one of the best knights in the world, is inclined unto his fellowship. What is he? Said the king with the 100 knights. It is, said King Lot, King Bors of Gaul. I marvel how they come into this country without witting of us all. It was by Merlin's advice, said the knight. As for him, said King Carados, I will encounter with King Bors, and ye will rescue me when Mr. is. Go on, said they all, we will do all that we may. Then King Carados and his host rode on a soft pace, till that they come as nigh King Bors as bow draught, and then either battle let their horse run as fast as they might. And Bleoberis, that was godson unto King Bors, he bare his chief standard, that was a passing good knight. Now shall we see, said King Bors, how these northern Britons can bear the arms. And King Bors encountered with a knight, and smote him throughout with a spear, that he fell dead unto the earth, and after drew his sword and did marvellous deeds of arms, that all parties had great wonder thereof. And his knights failed not, but did their part, and King Carados was smitten to the earth. With that came the king with the 100 knights, and rescued King Carados mightily by force of arms, for he was a passing good knight of a king, and but a young man. Chapter 16. Yet more of the same battle. By then came into the field King Ban, as fierce as a lion, with bands of green and thereupon gold. Ha ha, said King Lot, we must be discomfited, for yonder I see the most valiant knight of the world, and the man of the most renown. For such two brethren as is King Ban and King Bors are not living, wherefore we must needs void or die. But if we avoid manly and wisely, there is but death. When King Ban came into the battle, he came in so fiercely that the strokes redounded again from the wood and the water. Wherefore King Lot wept for pity and dole that he saw so many good knights take their end. But through the great force of King Ban they made both the northern battles that were departed hurtle together for great dread, and the 3 kings and their knights slew on ever, that it was pity on to behold that multitude of the people that fled. But King Lot, and King of the 100 Knights, and King Morganore, gathered the people together passing knightly, and did great prowess of arms, and held the battle all that day like hard. When the king of the 100 knights beheld the great damage that King Ban did, he thrust unto him with his horse, and smote him on high upon the helm a great stroke, and astonied him sore. Then King Ban was wroth with him, and followed on him fiercely. The other saw that, and cast up his shield, and spurred his horse forward, but the stroke of King Ban fell down, and carved a cantle off the shield, and the sword slid down by the hauberk behind his back, and cut through the trappings of steel, and the horse, even in two pieces, that sword fell to the earth. Then the king of the 100 knights voided the horse lightly, and with his sword he broached the horse of King Ban through and through. With that King Ban voided lightly from the dead horse, and then King Ban smote at the other so eagerly, and smote him on the helm, that he fell to the earth. Also in that ire he felled King Morganore, and there was a great slaughter of good knights and much people. By then came into the press King Arthur, and found King Ban standing among dead men and dead horse, fighting on foot as a wood lion, that there came none nigh him as far as he might reach with his sword, but he caught a grievous buffet, whereof King Arthur had great pity. And Arthur was so bloody that by his shield there might no man know him, for all was blood and brains on his sword. And as Arthur looked by him, he saw a knight that was passingly well horsed, and therewith Sir Arthur ran to him, and smote him on the helm, that his sword went unto his teeth, and the knight sank down to the earth dead. And anon Arthur took the horse by the rein, and led him unto King Ban, and said, Fair brother, have this horse, for ye have a great mister thereof, and let me repenteth sore of your great damage. It shall soon be revenged, said King Ban, for I trust in God mine ewer is not such, but some of them may sore repent this. I will well, said Arthur, for I see your deeds full actual, nevertheless I might not come at you at that time. But when King Ban was mounted on horseback, then there began a new battle, the which was sore and hard, and passing great slaughter. And so, through great force, King Arthur, King Ban, and King Bors made their knights a little to withdraw them. But always the 11 kings with their chivalry never turned back, and so withdrew them to a little wood, and so over a little river, and there they rested them, for on the night they might have no rest on the field. And then the 11 kings and knights put them on a heap all together, as men adread and out of all comfort. But there was no man might pass them. They held them so hard together both behind and before, that King Arthur had marvel of their deeds of arms, and was passing wroth. Ah, Sir Arthur, said King Ban and King Bors, blame them not, for they do as good men ought to do. For by my faith, said King Ban, they are the best fighting men and knights of the most prowess that I ever saw or heard speak of, and those 11 kings are men of great worship. And if they were longing unto you, there were no king under the heaven had such 11 knights, and of such worship. I may not love them, said Arthur, they would destroy me. That wot we well, said King Ban and King Bors, for they are your mortal enemies, and that hath been proved aforehand. And this day they have done their part, and that is great pity of their wilfulness. Then all the 11 kings drew them together, and then said King Lot, Lords, ye must other ways than ye do, or else the great loss is behind. Ye may see what people we have lost, and what good men we lose, because we wait always on these footmen, and ever in saving one of the footmen we lose 10 horsemen for him. Therefore this is mine advice. Let us put our footmen from us, for it is near night. For noble Arthur will not tarry on the footmen, for they may save themselves, the wood is near hand. And when the horsemen be together, look each of you kings let make such ordinance that none break upon pain of death. And who that seeth any man dressy him to flee, lightly that he be slain, for it is better that we slay a coward, than though through a coward all we to be slain. How say ye? Said King Lot. Answer me, all ye kings. It is well said, quoth King Nentres. So said the king of the 100 knights. The same said the King Carados and King Uriens. So did King Idrus and King Brandagoris. And so did King Cradlement and the King of Cambanet. The same said King Clarions and King Aguisance, and swear they would never fail other, neither for life nor for death, and whoso that fled, but did as they did, should be slain. Then they amended their harness, and righted their shields, and took new spears, and set them on their thighs, and stood still, as it had been a plump of wood. Chapter 17. Yet more of the same battle, and how it was ended by Merlin. When King Arthur and King Ban and Bors beheld them and all their knights, they praised them much for their noble cheer of chivalry, for the hardiest fighters that they ever heard or saw. With that there dressed them 40 noble knights, and said unto the 3 kings, they would break their battle. These were their names: Lionses, Pharians, Ulfius, Brastias, Ector, Kay, Lucas the butler, Griflet le Fils de Dieu, Mariette de la Roche, Guinas de Blois, Bryant de la Forest Savage, Belos, Morians of the Castle of Maidens, Flanedrius of the Castle of Ladies, Anicians, that was King Bors' godson, a noble knight, Ladanus de la Ruse, Emerose, Corlus, Gracians le Castellane, one Blus de la Case, and Sir Colgrevance de Gore. All these knights rode on afore with spears on their thighs, and spurred their horses mightily, as the horses might run. And the 11 kings, with part of their knights, rushed with their horses as fast as they might with their spears, and there they did on both parts marvellous deeds of arms. So came into the thick of the press Arthur, Ban, and Bors, and slew down right on both hands, that their horses went in blood up to the fetlocks. But ever the 11 kings and their host was ever in the visage of Arthur. Wherefore Ban and Bors had great marvel, considering the great slaughter that there was, but at the last they were driven aback over a little river. With that came Merlin on a great black horse, and said unto Arthur, Thou hast never done. Hast thou not done enough? Of 70,000 this day hast thou left alive but 15,000, and it is time to say, Ho! For God is wroth with thee, that thou wilt never have done, for yonder 11 kings at this time will not be overthrown. But an thou tarry on them any longer, thy fortune will turn, and they shall increase. And therefore withdraw you unto your lodging, and rest you as soon as ye may, and reward your good knights with gold and with silver, for they have well deserved it. There may no riches be too dear for them, for of so few men as ye have there were never men did more of prowess than they have done today, for ye have matched this day with the best fighters of the world. That is truth, said King Ban and Bors. Also, said Merlin, withdraw you where ye list, For this 3 year I dare undertake they shall not dare you, and by then ye shall hear new tidings. And then Merlin said unto Arthur, These 11 kings have more on hand than they are ware of, for the Saracens are landed in their countries, more than 40,000 that burn and slay and have laid siege at the castle Wondersborough, and make great destruction. Therefore dread you not this 3 year. Also, sir, all the goods that be gotten at this battle let it be searched, and when ye have it in your hands, let it be given freely unto these 2 kings, Ban and Bors, that they may reward their knights withal. And that shall cause strangers to be of better will to do you service at need. Also you will be able to reward your own knights of your own goods, whensomever it liketh you. It is well said, quoth Arthur, as thou hast devised, so shall it be done. When it was delivered to Ban and Bors, they gave the goods as freely to their knights as freely it was given to them. Then Merlin took his leave of Arthur and of the 2 kings, for to go and see his master Blease, that dwelt in Northumberland. And so he departed and came to his master, that was passing glad of his coming. And there he told how Arthur and the 2 kings had sped the great battle, and how it was ended, and told the names of every king and knight of worship that was there. And so Blease wrote the battle, word by word as Merlin told him, how it began, and by whom, and in likewise how it was ended, and who had the worse. All the battles that were done in Arthur's days Merlin did his master Blease to write. Also he did do write all the battles that every worthy knight did of Arthur's court. After this Merlin departed from his master and came to King Arthur, that was in the castle of Bedegraine. That was one of the castles that stood in the forest of Sherwood. And Merlin was so disguised that King Arthur knew him not, for he was all befurred in black sheepskins, and a great pair of boots, and a bow and arrows in a russet gown, and brought wild geese in his hand, and it was on the morn after Candlemas Day, but Arthur knew him not. Sir, said Merlin unto the king, will ye give me a gift? Wherefore, said King Arthur, should I give thee a gift, churl? Sir, said Merlin, ye were better to give me a gift that is not in your hand than to lose great riches, for here in the same place where the great battle was is great treasure hid in the earth. Who told thee so, churl? Said Arthur. Merlin told me so, he said. Then Ulfius and Brastias knew him well enough and smiled. Sir, said these 2 knights, it is Merlin that so speaketh unto you. Then King Arthur was greatly abashed, and had marvel of Merlin, and so had King Ban and King Bors, and so they had great disport at him. So in the meanwhile there came a damosel that was an earl's daughter. His name was Sanam, and her name was Leonors, a passing fair damsel, and so she came thither for to do homage, as the other lords did after a great battle. And King Arthur set his love greatly upon her, and so did she upon him. And the king had ado with her, and gat on her a child. His name was Bore. That was after a good knight, and of the Table Round. Then there came word that the King Rience of North Wales made great war on King Lear de Grance of Cameliard. For the which thing Arthur was wroth, for he loved him well and hated King Rience, for he was always against him. So by ordinance of the 3 kings that were sent home unto Benwick, all they would depart for great of King for dread of King Claudas, Pharians, and Antemnes, and Gratian, and Leonzes of Payarn, with the leaders of those that should keep the king's lands. And that, my friends, with the ending of the battle and the trickery of Merlin, is where I think we should leave off today. The end of that passage reminds me of what we saw in the last, the way in which the treatment of women and those less fortunate than knights or kings are treated in this book is very reminiscent of the attitudes of the time. It is sad to see that nearly all of the named characters are men, and that the only women appear to be present to bear the children of men, hopefully, who will also be men. It is a sad state of affairs, and I am aware that not only is it one that we should be getting away from, but one that we are not quite free of in literature, art, politics, and so many avenues of life. I think I've mentioned before on this channel that that is one of the things that I appreciate about reading these old books. By looking at the mores and acceptable attitudes of the times in which these books were written, it gives us an opportunity to examine our own culture and to see if such a thing as was acceptable then is detestable now. What might we look on in the future as detestable that now we do not notice? With that, I leave you for this week. Thank you for joining me for this very battle-heavy episode of soft stories and chapters of Le Morte d'Arthur. I hope you'll join me next time, when I hope we'll go a-questing. But until that time, I must leave you. And until we see each other again, know that I wish you all the best. Goodbye.